to the House. First oral question, Baroness Bennett of Manor Castle.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing under my name on the order paper.
My Lords, the Bank of England's Financial Policy Committee is responsible for identifying and addressing risks to stability of the UK financial system. The committee's most recent judgment is that the system of market-based finance, which includes private equity, has so far been able to absorb recent changes in macroeconomic conditions.
My Lords, I thank the noble lady the Minister for her answer, and I think the key words in there perhaps may have been "so far". We have a situation where if multiple private equity companies experience financial stress simultaneously, it could have systemic implications. This is especially true if those companies operate in interconnected industries, leading to a potential domino effect of financial distress that could spread to the broader economy. Given the fact that the UK is the second largest private equity market in the world, with nearly £80 billion of private equity money going in the last 5 years, is the government really assessing the situation and considering whether there needs to be restrictions on the role of private equity in our economy and indeed in our society, given how many companies have been taken over by private equity and subsequently closed down?
I'm afraid I don't recognise the picture that the noble lady paints, nor do I agree that private equity needs to be closed down. It is the case that the Bank of England monitors the situation across the entire market-based financial system, and the noble lady may be interested to know that the Bank of England is conducting a system-wide exploratory scenario, which will be a world first, and it will look at all of the elements of the financial system, and it will stress test them in quite severe circumstances to ensure that there is no contagion. But the noble lady is not right to say that there is a massive risk of contagion. The private equity sector is actually a very small part of our financial system.
Can I share my noble friend's comments in respect to the private equity industry? I'm sure she's aware that the private equity industry raised £70 billion last year, but has £145 billion in dry powder capacity in the case of financial instability. Isn't the real possible instability for companies in the UK is the threat to the changes in employment laws which currently allow firms to respond to market conditions? I refer your lordships to my register of interests.
My noble friend is absolutely right. We do need the right flexible employment laws to ensure that private equity can continue to steward companies that employ millions of people. Indeed, the British Venture Capital and Private Equity Association estimates that private equity related companies employ 2.2 million workers.
The Minister that she should take Baroness Bennett's question really seriously. That a very large part of the private equity market is heavily over-leveraged, though it's often disguised through complex financial engineering. It's not just Thames Water. And at the same time, there are serious questions now on the condition of the public debt markets, with gilt rates so dependent that on volatile foreign buyers for their gilt sales. So has Treasury looked again at the stress tests that are being used by the Bank of England to see if they encompass potential issues in these two markets? Because there is a real risk that not just one but both could have serious problems at the same time with systemic consequences.
I would like to reassure the noble lady that the Treasury works with the Bank of England and other regulators to monitor the system.
My Lords, private equity is part of the 131 trillion shadow banking system, which is largely unregulated, even though it is much, much bigger than the regulated retail banking sector. Most recently, IOSCO has said that the high leverage of private equity poses a threat to the world economy. It is hard to see why the Minister is sort of dismissing that. Could I ask the Minister to do two things? One, apply the banking prudential regulations to private equity. Second, end tax relief on corporate interest payments and thereby reduce private equity's capacity to increase leverage and cause the next financial crash, which will be inevitably caused by private equity.
My Lords, there are £250 billion of private equity assets under management in the UK versus 10.3 trillion of total assets under management. It is a smaller part of the financial system. But the Noble Lord is not right to say that it is unregulated. UK private equity managers are regulated under the Alternative Investment Fund Managers regime. They must also comply with the senior managers and certification regime.
To the set out in the register, it's hardly surprising to see that private equity is struggling to do deals and sell their portfolio companies in a climate of high interest rates and low growth. In fact, it's zero growth, as October's dismal GDP figures show that we've actually seen no growth at all in the last quarter. And in view of capital's recent flight to quality, does the Minister agree with me that it's our lack of economic growth strategy that is in fact the biggest drag on private equity in this country?
I don't agree with the Noble Lord. As the Noble Lord will have seen in the autumn statement, the Chancellor set out very significant tax cuts to encourage growth. My Lords, that is where we are focused our firepower at the moment.
My Lords, further to the original question about high interest rates, at the last general election, the Green Party was committed to borrowing an extra £95 billion to pay for their commitments. What would this have done to interest rates?
I would not wish to speculate. However, I'm not sure it would be good things.
Is so keen on employing people in this country. How come they're not so keen on paying the pensions? The private equity owners of Boots have just got rid of the pension responsibilities.
The Noble Lord mentions a situation that I'm not aware of, but I will say that, of course, all owners of UK companies must abide by the Companies Act and, of course, their obligations therein.
Lords, has my noble friend been following the speeches and articles written by Lord King, the former Governor of the Bank of England, which he has suggested that it's so important for the bank to concentrate on inflation and the price mechanism, and so important that it does not make sense to add to the responsibilities a green agenda which will distract them and draw them into political activity.
I have not been following those interventions from the former Governor, Lord King, but I will certainly go and look at them.
My Lords, the Bank of England has recently warned of the risks to financial stability posed by artificial intelligence and machine learning, with the bank's Financial Policy Committee identifying the potential for system-wide risk, herding behaviour and increased cyber risk. Does the Noble Baroness believe that regulators currently have sufficient powers and that existing powers are sufficiently future-proofed to deal with emerging risks to financial stability from rapid technological advances, including but not limited to AI?
I will accept that the regulatory system around AI is still in development, and that is not unique in the United Kingdom. I do think that the AI Summit, which was convened by the Prime Minister, made good steps in the right direction.
Can we send our deepest sympathies to Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg on the demise of Somerset Capital Management, and hope that this will now enable him to spend more time looking after his constituency.
I'm not aware that there was a question there, but if the Noble Lord wants to send his sympathies, I'm sure they will have been heard.
Thank you for your good wishes. Given the recent problems with the trust budget, was the Bank of England informed of the budget before it was announced? And if not, why not?
I'm afraid the Noble Lord speaks about things I have no knowledge about.
Let me declare an interest. I'm involved in the private equity industry. If we in the industry do not calculate the risks properly, and we do not build into our modelling the necessary degree of leverage and allow for it, is it not right that we should be allowed to fail? We should not be just kept alive because when we have shown incompetence.
I completely agree with the Noble Lord. Private equity is all about risk and it is all about returns. And it is the case that not all firms will succeed in perpetuity. That is the way of a capitalist market, and it allows the correct allocation of capital within the system.
My Lords, I'm glad the Noble Lord Young pays such attention to the Green Party manifesto. It's pleasing to see, and with the reference to so-called green environmental investments, would the Noble Lady the Minister agree with me that it's absolutely essential for the future of the British economy to meet the needs of British society that we have to invest in renewable energy, in warm, comfortable, affordable to heat homes, and in terms of the transformation that we need for a healthy society?
Yeah. Actually, I would flip that round the other way. I had a long conversation with the head of ESG at the FCA about this. It is the case, actually, that it is the public, it is the investors in pension schemes who want to see investments in higher-rated ESG organisations. That is actually the key driver. It is ensuring that the capital goes to the places that the investors want to invest it in.
Second oral question.